in the heart of a war-torn land, where the echoes of gunfire mingled with the cries of the fallen. A young lieutenant named Alex stood on the precipice of his destiny. Just days before, he had been an ordinary man, filled with dreams and aspirations. But now he was thrust into a reality that would test his courage and resolve like never before. As he gazed across the desolate battlefield, a chilling thought gripped him. Today would be his first battle, and failure was not an option. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced eerily over the ground. Each shadow seemed to whisper secrets of those who had fought and died here before him. Alex could feel the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. He was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting for his men, for their families, and for a future that felt increasingly uncertain. The air was thick with tension, and every breath he took felt like a promise. A promise to lead, to protect, and to survive. As the order to advance rang out, adrenaline surged through his veins. It was a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. He had trained for this moment, but training could never fully prepare him for the chaos that awaited. With each step forward, he could hear the distant rumble of artillery and the sharp crack of rifles firing. It was a symphony of destruction, and he was about to become part of it. Suddenly, a deafening explosion erupted nearby, sending shockwaves through the ground. Alex stumbled but quickly regained his footing. Panic surged among his men, their eyes wide with terror. In that moment, he felt a surge of responsibility. He had to rally them, to remind them why they were there. "Stay focused," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. "We're stronger together." But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. Was he truly worthy of their trust? Could he lead them through the storm? The internal conflict raged within him as they moved forward, each step a battle against fear and uncertainty. As they approached the enemy lines, Alex caught sight of a familiar face among his men, his childhood friend, Mark. They had shared countless dreams over campfires and late-night talks about the future. Now they were standing side by side in a fight for survival. The sight of Mark's determined expression filled Alex with renewed strength. They were not just soldiers. They were brothers in arms. The clash began with an intensity that left no room for hesitation. Bullets whizzed past, and the ground erupted around them as explosions tore through the earth. In that chaos, time seemed to slow down. Alex found himself dodging behind cover, heart racing as he tried to make sense of the unfolding nightmare. Each moment felt stretched thin, filled with danger and uncertainty. Then came the moment that would forever change him. The sight of Mark falling to the ground, clutching his side as blood seeped through his fingers. A primal scream tore from Alex's throat as he rushed to his friend's side. "Stay with me! Stay with me!" he yelled, panic flooding his senses. But deep down, he knew that this was war. A brutal reality where life could be snatched away in an instant. As Alex cradled Mark in his arms, he felt a mixture of helplessness and rage. The battlefield around him faded away. All that mattered was saving his friend. He applied pressure to the wound, desperately trying to stem the flow of blood while shouting for medics. But in that moment, he realized how fragile life truly was, how quickly everything could change. "Don't you dare leave me," Alex pleaded, tears blurring his vision as he looked into Mark's eyes. There was fear there, but also an understanding, a silent acknowledgement of their bond forged through years of friendship. In that moment of vulnerability, Alex felt something shift within him. He understood that this battle was not just about survival. It was about connection, love, and sacrifice. As medics finally arrived and took Mark away, Alex felt a fire ignite within him. He couldn't let fear paralyze him any longer. He had to fight not just for himself but for every soldier who had ever laid down their life for something greater than themselves. With renewed determination, he rose to his feet and joined his men once more. The battle raged on, but now Alex fought with purpose. Each enemy soldier he faced became a reminder of what was at stake, a future worth fighting for. He pushed through the pain and chaos, driven by the memory of Mark and the bond they shared. In those harrowing moments, Alex began to understand the true meaning of bravery. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to act despite it. He became a leader in those trenches, not because he was fearless but because he refused to let fear dictate his actions. And as the sun began to set on that fateful day, painting the sky in hues of red and orange, Alex emerged from the shadows transformed. He had faced his first battle not only as a soldier but as a man who understood sacrifice and camaraderie. The echoes of gunfire would haunt him forever, but so too would the lessons learned amidst the chaos. The importance of connection, the strength found in vulnerability, and the unwavering spirit that binds us together in our darkest moments. As he looked out over the battlefield, Alex made a silent vow to honor those who had fallen and to carry their legacy forward. He would not forget their sacrifices. Instead, he would strive to ensure that their stories lived on in every action he took. And so began his journey. A journey not just through war but through life itself, where each battle fought would shape him into a leader worthy of their sacrifices. With every heartbeat echoing in his chest, he knew this was only the beginning. If you want to hear more about Alex's journey and explore deeper themes of courage and sacrifice in our next episode, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more stories from the battlefield and beyond. The day after Alex experienced his first battle, he woke up with a heavy heart and a clear mind. The night had been filled with nightmares, echoing with screams and the sounds of explosions. He knew that his life would never be the same again. Every day, every moment would now be intertwined with the awareness of loss and sacrifice. As he stepped out of the tent, the morning air was fresh, but it carried the scent of gunpowder and blood. The sun was rising over the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. It was a beautiful sight, yet it contrasted sharply with the horrors he had witnessed on the battlefield. Alex gathered his men for the morning assembly. He felt he needed to inspire them, to give them hope in this difficult time. Today we will fight not just for ourselves, but for those who are no longer with us, he began, trying to speak confidently despite his own doubts. We must remember our comrades, those who gave their lives for us. We will fight for their memory and for a future they could not see. His words resonated with his soldiers. They looked at him with respect and determination. In that moment, he realized he had become not just a commander but a symbol of hope for his people. After the assembly, they began preparing for their next mission. Command had decided to launch an operation to capture a strategically important height that would give them control over the surrounding area. Alex knew it would be dangerous, but they could not afford to retreat. During preparations, Alex addressed his soldiers. We must act as one, trust each other and know that each of you is important. We are not just a group, we are family. These words strengthened their spirit and helped them focus on the task ahead. As they moved toward the height, Alex felt the tension rise. Every step brought them closer to the unknown. Suddenly, a shot rang out. One of his soldiers fell to the ground. Alex reacted instantly, dropping to the ground and ordering the others to stay in cover. "Someone call for medics!" he shouted, trying to maintain his composure. Inside him, emotions were raging. Fear for his people and a desire to protect them at any cost. The operation continued under constant threat. With every step forward, Alex felt the mounting pressure. The responsibility for his soldiers' lives weighed on him like a heavy stone. Finally, they reached the height, but the enemy had already taken positions and opened fire on them. The battle erupted with renewed intensity. Alex plunged back into the chaos, acting instinctively. He knew he had to lead his men forward despite his fear. Amidst the gunfire and explosions, he noticed a group of enemies on the flank. This was their chance. "Forward! Follow me!" he shouted, charging into the attack. His soldiers followed him, and soon they found themselves at the center of the fight. Alex fought with fury and determination. Each shot was not just an act of defense. It was a struggle for life and for the memory of his comrades. He felt his heart pounding in rhythm with the beat of battle. It was a symphony of survival. When the dust settled and the fighting quieted down, Alex stood among his soldiers, surveying the battlefield. They had won, but the cost was high. Some of his men were wounded or had fallen. He felt the bitterness of loss but also understood the importance of this moment. "We did it," he said with difficulty, looking at his people. "We fought not only for ourselves but for those who were left behind." In his soldiers' eyes, pride mixed with sorrow. That day, Alex became not just a leader. He became a symbol of hope and strength for his people. He knew that many challenges lay ahead, but now he was ready for them. Together with his comrades, he was prepared to continue the fight for peace and justice. This victory became a lesson for him. Even in the darkest times, one can find light, the light of friendship, support, and hope for a better future. And with each new day, he was ready to move forward, never forgetting those who had given their lives for this struggle. As the days turned into weeks, the victory at the height became a turning point for Alex and his men. They were no longer just soldiers. They had become a family forged in the fires of battle. Each day brought new challenges, but with each challenge came an opportunity to grow stronger together. The camp buzzed with activity as they prepared for their next mission. As dawn broke, they set out under the cover of darkness. The air was crisp, and the silence was almost eerie. Each step felt heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. They moved cautiously, aware that any sound could alert the enemy. As they approached the enemy's position, tension filled the air. Alex signaled for them to halt and listen. The distant sounds of voices reached his ears, proof that they were close. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "On my mark," he whispered to his men, raising his hand. 3, 2, 1, go. The soldiers surged forward, weapons drawn. The element of surprise was on their side as they stormed the enemy camp. The initial chaos was overwhelming. Gunfire erupted from both sides as confusion reigned. Alex fought fiercely, leading from the front. He dodged bullets and returned fire, urging his men to push forward. In the heat of battle, he spotted an enemy soldier aiming at one of his own. Without thinking, he lunged forward, tackling the soldier to the ground and disarming him. "Stay down!" he shouted as he pinned the enemy soldier beneath him. The fight raged around them, but in that moment, it was just Alex and his adversary. With a swift motion, he secured the enemy's weapon and stood up, scanning for his next target. The battle raged on for what felt like hours. Finally, as the sun began to rise fully over the horizon, it became clear that they had gained the upper hand. The remaining enemy forces were retreating, and cheers erupted among Alex's men. But amidst the celebration, Alex felt a pang of sorrow. They had won, but at a cost. As they gathered to regroup and assess their losses, he noticed several familiar faces were missing. The weight of grief settled over him once again. "We fought bravely today," he addressed his men, trying to keep his voice steady. "We have pushed back the enemy and protected our home. But we must remember those who cannot celebrate with us." He paused, taking a deep breath. "Let us honor their memory by continuing our fight for peace." In that moment, something shifted within Alex and his soldiers. They understood that this struggle was not just about territory or power. It was about their shared humanity and the bonds they had forged through adversity. As they began to prepare for their return to camp, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that there would be more battles ahead, but he also understood that together they could face anything. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other, and that made all the difference. With each passing day, Alex grew into his role as a leader. He learned to balance strength with compassion and strategy with empathy. His men looked to him not only for guidance in battle but also for support in moments of doubt. As they marched back to camp under the rising sun, Alex felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. A hope for a future where they could all find peace once again. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by their shared experiences and unwavering resolve. As the days turned into weeks, the camp settled into a rhythm of preparation and reflection. The victory over the enemy had boosted morale, but the shadow of loss still lingered. Alex knew that healing would take time, and he was determined to support his men through it. One evening, as they gathered around the campfire, Alex decided to share stories of the fallen. He believed that remembering their comrades would help his men process their grief. One by one, they spoke of their friends, laughing at shared memories and shedding tears for those who would never return. "Sam was always the first to volunteer for patrols," one soldier recalled. his voice thick with emotion. He said he'd rather face danger than sit idle. I admired his bravery. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of each story. And let's not forget how he made us laugh during the toughest times, he added, trying to lighten the mood. The stories flowed freely, creating a bond among them that strengthened their resolve. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled overhead, Alex felt a sense of unity among his men. They were not just soldiers. They were brothers fighting for each other and for the memory of those they had lost. In the following days, they trained harder than ever, honing their skills and preparing for future engagements. Alex emphasized teamwork and communication, ensuring that every soldier felt valued and heard. He organized drills that focused not only on combat techniques but also on building trust among the ranks. One day, while practicing maneuvers in the field, Alex noticed a young recruit named Liam struggling to keep up. After the drill, he approached Liam, who looked dejected. "Hey, you did well out there," Alex said. "It takes time to find your rhythm. What's on your mind?" Liam hesitated before speaking. "I just don't want to let everyone down. I feel like I'm holding the team back." Alex placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We all start somewhere. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Lean on your teammates. They're here to support you." He smiled warmly, hoping to instill confidence in the young soldier. With time, Liam began to improve, and soon he was contributing significantly during training exercises. The camaraderie among the soldiers grew stronger as they supported one another through challenges. However, the calm was soon disrupted by new intelligence reports indicating that enemy forces were regrouping again. This time, they were better organized and more determined than before. Alex called for an urgent meeting with his officers to discuss their next move. "We need to be strategic," he emphasized. "They're likely expecting us to strike again, so we must anticipate their tactics. We'll set up a defensive perimeter and prepare for an assault." The officers nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As they formulated their plan, Alex felt a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew that this battle would test everything they had learned and fought for. In the days leading up to the engagement, Alex worked tirelessly alongside his men, reinforcing their defenses and ensuring everyone understood their roles. He held individual conversations with each soldier, listening to their concerns and providing encouragement. On the eve of battle, as they gathered around the campfire once more, Alex addressed his men. "Tomorrow will be challenging," he said solemnly, "but I want you all to remember why we fight. We fight for each other, for our families waiting at home, and for those we've lost. Let that drive you forward." With determination in their hearts, the soldiers prepared for what lay ahead. The night was filled with quiet contemplation as they reflected on their journey together, the struggles, the victories, and the bonds that had been forged in fire. As dawn broke, they moved into position, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The air was thick with tension as they awaited the enemy's approach. Each soldier took a deep breath, focusing on their training and the unity they had built. When the enemy finally advanced, it was fierce and relentless. The sound of gunfire echoed across the battlefield as both sides clashed in a chaotic frenzy. Alex fought valiantly alongside his men, shouting orders and rallying them when morale began to wane. In the midst of battle, he spotted Liam pinned down behind cover. Without hesitation, Alex rushed to his side. "We need to move," he shouted over the noise of gunfire. Together, they pushed forward, flanking the enemy and creating an opening for their comrades. The tide began to turn as Alex's strategic maneuver paid off. With renewed vigor, his men surged forward, pushing back against the enemy forces. They fought with everything they had, fueled by a fierce determination to protect one another. As the battle raged on, Alex felt a surge of hope amid the chaos. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for each other. Each life mattered in the struggle. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, victory was within reach. The enemy began to retreat under the weight of their relentless assault. Cheers erupted among Alex's men as they realized they had prevailed once more. But as they caught their breath and assessed the aftermath of battle, reality set in once again. They had won, but at a cost, a reminder that war was never without sacrifice. Alex stood amidst his soldiers, feeling a deep sense of pride for their bravery and resilience. They had faced unimaginable challenges together and emerged stronger as a unit. In that moment, he understood that leadership was not just about strategy. It was about fostering a spirit of unity and compassion in times of adversity. As they prepared to return to camp once more, Alex felt a flicker of hope reignite within him. A hope that together they could navigate whatever challenges lay ahead and build a future worth fighting for. As the days passed after their hard-won victory, the camp settled into a routine of recovery and reflection. The soldiers were physically exhausted but emotionally charged from the battle they had just endured. Alex took it upon himself to ensure that his men were not only physically prepared for future conflicts but also mentally resilient. One evening, he gathered everyone around the campfire once more. The flickering flames cast shadows on their faces as they shared stories of their experiences in battle. Laughter mixed with solemnity as they recounted both the lighter moments and the harrowing realities they faced. "Remember when we thought we'd lost the map, and Sam pulled out that old piece of paper?" One soldier chuckled, prompting a wave of laughter. "He said it was a treasure map." Alex smiled, grateful for these moments of levity amidst the weight of their circumstances. "That's right. And who could forget how he insisted we follow it anyway? It led us straight into that muddy field." The camaraderie was palpable, and Alex knew that these shared experiences were crucial for healing. They were not just soldiers. They were a family bound by shared trials and triumphs. In the following weeks, Alex focused on building their skills through rigorous training. He emphasized teamwork and communication, knowing that their survival depended on their ability to work together seamlessly. He introduced new drills that required them to rely on one another, fostering trust and unity. However, it wasn't long before new intelligence reports indicated that the enemy was regrouping and planning a counterattack. The atmosphere shifted from one of recovery to urgency as Alex called an emergency meeting with his officers. "We need to be proactive," he stated firmly. "They're likely preparing for a strike, so we must fortify our defenses and anticipate their moves. We'll set up observation points and prepare for whatever comes our way." The officers nodded in agreement, understanding the stakes involved. As they devised their strategy, Alex felt a familiar mix of anxiety and determination rise within him. He knew this next battle would test everything they had learned and fought for. In the days leading up to the engagement, Alex worked tirelessly alongside his men, reinforcing their positions and ensuring everyone understood their roles. He held individual conversations with each soldier, addressing their concerns and bolstering their confidence. On the eve of battle, as they gathered around the campfire once again, Alex addressed his men with a sense of gravity. "Tomorrow will be tough," he said, his voice steady. "But remember why we fight. We fight for each other, for our families waiting for us at home, and for those we've lost along the way. Let that fuel your spirit." With resolve in their hearts, the soldiers prepared for what lay ahead. The night was filled with a quiet intensity as they reflected on their journey, the struggles they had overcome and the bonds that had been forged through adversity. As dawn broke, they moved into position, adrenaline surging through their veins. The air was thick with anticipation as they awaited the enemy's advance. Each soldier took a moment to breathe deeply, focusing on their training and the unity they had cultivated. When the enemy finally approached, it was fierce and relentless. Gunfire erupted across the battlefield as both sides clashed in a chaotic frenzy. Alex fought valiantly alongside his men, shouting orders and encouraging them when morale began to falter. In the midst of battle, he spotted Liam pinned down behind cover. Without hesitation, Alex rushed to his side. "We need to move," he shouted over the cacophony of gunfire. Together, they pushed forward, flanking the enemy and creating an opening for their comrades. The tide began to turn as Alex's strategic maneuver bore fruit. With renewed energy, his men surged forward, pushing back against the enemy forces with determination. They fought not just for survival but for each other, a fierce bond that drove them onward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of chaos and struggle, victory was within reach. The enemy began to retreat under the weight of their relentless assault. Cheers erupted among Alex's men as they realized they had triumphed once more. But as they caught their breath and surveyed the aftermath of battle, reality set in again. They had won, but at a cost, a stark reminder that war demanded sacrifice. Alex stood amidst his soldiers, feeling immense pride in their bravery and resilience. They had faced unimaginable challenges together and emerged stronger as a unit. In that moment, he understood that leadership extended beyond strategy. It was about nurturing a spirit of unity and compassion in times of hardship. As they prepared to return to camp once more, Alex felt a flicker of hope reignite within him. A hope that together they could navigate whatever challenges lay ahead and build a future worth fighting for. May 26, 2026, 23:33. As the days passed after their hard-won victory, the camp settled into a routine of recovery and reflection. The soldiers were physically exhausted but emotionally charged from the battle they had just endured. Alex took it upon himself to ensure that his men were not only physically prepared for future conflicts but also mentally resilient. One evening, he gathered everyone around the campfire once more. The flickering flames cast shadows on their faces as they shared stories of their experiences in battle. Laughter mixed with solemnity as they recounted both the lighter moments and the harrowing realities they faced. "Remember when we thought we'd lost the map, and Sam pulled out that old piece of paper?" One soldier chuckled, prompting a wave of laughter. "He said it was a treasure map." Alex smiled, grateful for these moments of levity amidst the weight of their circumstances. "That's right. And who could forget how he insisted we follow it anyway? It led us straight into that muddy field." The camaraderie was palpable, and Alex knew that these shared experiences were crucial for healing. They were not just soldiers. They were a family bound by shared trials and triumphs. In the following weeks, Alex focused on building their skills through rigorous training. He emphasized teamwork and communication, knowing that their survival depended on their ability to work together seamlessly. He introduced new drills that required them to rely on one another, fostering trust and unity. However, it wasn't long before new intelligence reports indicated that the enemy was regrouping and planning a counterattack. The atmosphere shifted from one of recovery to urgency as Alex called an emergency meeting with his officers. "We need to be proactive," he stated firmly. "They're likely preparing for a strike, so we must fortify our defenses and anticipate their moves. We'll set up observation points and prepare for whatever comes our way." The officers nodded in agreement, understanding the stakes involved. As they devised their strategy, Alex felt a familiar mix of anxiety and determination rise within him. He knew this next battle would test everything they had learned and fought for. In the days leading up to the engagement, Alex worked tirelessly alongside his men, reinforcing their positions and ensuring everyone understood their roles. He held individual conversations with each soldier, addressing their concerns and bolstering their confidence. On the eve of battle, as they gathered around the campfire once again, Alex addressed his men with a sense of gravity. "Tomorrow will be tough," he said, his voice steady. "But remember why we fight. We fight for each other, for our families waiting for us at home, and for those we've lost along the way. Let that fuel your spirit." With resolve in their hearts, the soldiers prepared for what lay ahead. The night was filled with a quiet intensity as they reflected on their journey, the struggles they had overcome and the bonds that had been forged through adversity. As dawn broke, they moved into position, adrenaline surging through their veins. The air was thick with anticipation as they awaited the enemy's advance. Each soldier took a moment to breathe deeply, focusing on their training and the unity they had cultivated. When the enemy finally approached, it was fierce and relentless. Gunfire erupted across the battlefield as both sides clashed in a chaotic frenzy. Alex fought valiantly alongside his men, shouting orders and encouraging them when morale began to falter. In the midst of battle, he spotted Liam pinned down behind cover. Without hesitation, Alex rushed to his side. "We need to move," he shouted over the cacophony of gunfire. Together, they pushed forward, flanking the enemy and creating an opening for their comrades. The tide began to turn as Alex's strategic maneuver bore fruit. With renewed energy, his men surged forward, pushing back against the enemy forces with determination. They fought not just for survival but for each other. a fierce bond that drove them onward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of chaos and struggle, victory was within reach. The enemy began to retreat under the weight of their relentless assault. Cheers erupted among Alex's men as they realized they had triumphed once more. But as they caught their breath and surveyed the aftermath of battle, reality set in again. They had won, but at a cost, a stark reminder that war demanded sacrifice. Alex stood amidst his soldiers, feeling immense pride in their bravery and resilience. They had faced unimaginable challenges together and emerged stronger as a unit. In that moment, he understood that leadership extended beyond strategy. It was about nurturing a spirit of unity and compassion in times of hardship. As they prepared to return to camp once more, Alex felt a flicker of hope reignite within him. A hope that together they could navigate whatever challenges lay ahead and build a future worth fighting for.